Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Dare to Care. My name is Masha and today I talk to Esther, who is the founder of Animal Heroes, an amazing NGO who provides emergency aid for animals worldwide. Esther has worked in a completely different field before she decided to dedicate her working life to the protection of animals. We discuss the somewhat different approach of her NGO and what influence each individual context and setting of the animal hero have on the provided support. Esther's NGO has completed 10 emergency aid missions in 2023 and supported 52 animal heroes. These animal heroes include people in Ukraine in a protracted war with Russia, in Turkey after a devastating earthquake, in Greece after a massive bushfire, and in Palestine during a war between Israel and Hamas. I hope you enjoy listening. Hello and welcome to the Dare to Care podcast. I'm really happy that we see each other. We have been in contact for a couple of days now, but finally we see each other, and it's really nice to have you more or less live in front of me. So yeah, a warm welcome.
Thank you, Masha. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here, and likewise, it's nice to finally see you, live, even though it's not really live.
Yeah. You're not a veterinarian, so I think that's a bit special for the podcast because we have a lot of veterinarians as interview guests. And yeah, just introduce yourself and then maybe also your organization, because that's the reason why I've invited you.
Well, thank you. I'm Esther Kef. I'm 44 years old. I'm from Amsterdam, and I live some of the time in the Dolomites as I love the mountains, and we don't have many of those in the Netherlands, as you know, in Germany. And I've always loved animals ever since I can recall. I used to have my own animal organization. It wasn't a formal organization, but it was something that I created when I was about 10 years old. And I rescued animals from the streets and wrote newsletters and sold them for very little money, house by house, and collected money for animal shelters. We even adopted a seal. So that's how it started, my life as an animal protector. And then life came in between, and my father thought it was a great idea for me to study business. So I went and studied I got a business degree and had my own company. I worked in corporate companies in marketing and sales roles to actually never find my place. I never really did that with passion. So when I was 40, we fast forward quite a few years, I realized it's one of those moments that you start thinking about your life, and I thought, is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? I'm making a lot of money, I'm having a nice life, but I realized there that I didn't want that for myself. So I quit my job. I gave up my own company. I was working in aviation. I had actually just done a second degree in master in aviation, for which I worked very hard for 4 years to then realize I didn't want to work in aviation. So that was the thing I learned from the 4 years of hard studying and painful exams, which is not easy when you're 40. And I quit everything and joined a Dutch animal welfare organization, initially as a volunteer for 2 days a week. And after 6 months, I realized that if I wanted to help grow this organization, I had to put more effort in it. So I went full time and worked for them for 4 years. And one of the projects I worked on was an emergency aid project in Ukraine. And because of that, I went to Ukraine with colleagues, and I saw the most amazing people there that I was astonished. They were under the bombs. They didn't have food. They didn't have heating. The electricity would come and go, and instead of running away and evacuating the country along with a lot of other people, they stayed behind to look after animals that other people had left behind. So they had maybe like 30 dogs in the kitchen, or cats, on a very little income. And I then realized that I wanted to use my time and my skills to help these brave heroes. And that's when Animal Heroes started. So that's the name of my organization. And we support animal heroes, people that rescue, protect, and care for animals in the most difficult situations, like war zones and earthquakes and unimaginable situations where often they risk their own lives. And that's what we do.
So you go specifically into really difficult situations instead of, I don't know, going to stray dogs and neuter and give them food, but you're looking for quite complicated cases.
Well, we support Animal Heroes, so we support the people that do this work. They find themselves in the most difficult situations, and what we found is that they struggle to get any support, especially the smaller organizations, or maybe just an old granny, an old lady with a pension. She maybe doesn't have Instagram to try to find support, or maybe she only speaks Ukrainian or Arabic language. And the bigger organizations usually find a way to get connected, to get help from bigger animal help organizations. The smaller ones struggle because they find it difficult to get themselves noticed. And in fact, actually, they don't even think about it. They just work day and night to try to help animals and worry about, okay, I don't know if I can feed them next week. That's what we are doing. That's what I really want to do, because what is missing is an international aid organization for animals like the Red Cross that is only there for emergency situations. So because I saw these people in real life, I thought these people need help. And that's how we started it. And usually, indeed, it's in very difficult situations. And I had not thought about that, to be honest, when I started it. Because the whole idea was to maybe go and visit them once and then put them on the website and tell the world about their existence. But then it went all differently, because the first person we contacted said, we don't need your money, we need actually manpower. And that's how we ended up in Hatay in Turkey in the earthquakes, where we found ourselves in broken buildings trying to save cats that didn't want to be rescued. So it happened naturally, actually.
Yeah. But I mean, when you say it's sometimes difficult for those really small, local, on-the-ground organizations, or maybe sometimes they are not even organizations, but just like normal people, individuals that have their own reason to help animals, how do you find them? If they are not online, for example, if they don't use social media, you must have some way to contact them or to get to know them.
Yeah, well, I have a very big network in Ukraine, because I've been working on one of the biggest aid projects, worldwide for Ukrainian animals when the war started. So people also find me via. That's in Ukraine, but sometimes also we actually proactively start looking when there is an earthquake or when there is a war. We look for ourselves, like who is doing what on the ground, because we want to support, but we want to understand who is actually doing what, who is helping, and what help is needed. One thing I've learned in 5 years of doing this job is that it's very important to not run to a border with emergency aid, thinking you're going to help, and then maybe realizing that what the things you brought is actually the things that are maybe not needed. So the most important thing is to establish which organizations or people are helping, what are they doing, and what are their needs. So we study that first, and then we decide in what way we're going to help. So sometimes it's us actually contacting organizations, and then via we get to know which organizations are helping and what do they need. And not always organizations. Sometimes they are just individuals. And in Rodos we helped to feed wildlife after the forest fires this summer. And there we helped 2 brothers who are veterinarian doctors, and they have their vet practice in Rodos. And we joined them in helping them to keep feeding the animals, because obviously there was no food left for the deers and the goats and even donkeys there. Yeah. So it depends. Sometimes we get contacted, like this morning. I got a message from Israel from a lady that said, please contact this person. He's helping animals and he really needs donations. He's on his own. So people come to us, but also we go out ourselves.
Yeah. So I was wondering, I mean, there are a lot of animal welfare organizations already in the world. Some are working more on a national level and some are international. What makes your organization then very different? Is it the different approach? Or what would you say is the main difference? Is it also the ethics, maybe?
I think every organization is unique. They're specialized in something, like Forpos is very good at rescuing animals from zoos, for example, specialized in going into war zones as well. An amazing organization, I think. Our organization focuses on the person as well, on the animal hero. So we tell the story of a person that is risking often his or her own life to help animals. So by telling her story or his story, we hope to inspire people at home, normal people, I would say, people with normal jobs that maybe are behind a computer or maybe are doing something else and they want to help animals, but they can't find the time, or they have a family and they can't maybe, or they don't want to have a shelter in their backyard. But they get inspired by these stories, like I do, because I got inspired, and I think a lot of people get inspired by these people. So our idea is really to tell the story about the person behind the project, and not just to say, oh, here are 5 dogs that need to be rescued, but to tell the story. So where we are unique is that we really decide on a person, or it's always a person, even if the person maybe has a small foundation. We look at that. And we are a startup. We started only a year ago. Forpos has been there for many, many years. But like Forpos, we are also international and we provide emergency aid. The thing is where we're also different is that we only provide emergency aid. Whereas other organizations, most of them, when there is no crisis, they also have other projects and other sort of core activities.
You have mentioned now already some of your heroes that you support. You have mentioned Ukraine, you have mentioned also one in Turkey, then from last year in Greece, in Rhodos. Can you choose one maybe, one or two, and explain a little bit more, elaborate a bit more about those heroes and what they do on the ground?
Yes, I would like to say something about the latest trip, because we've just come back 2 weeks ago from the West Bank, where there is this lady called Diana Babish. She's a well-known animal protector in the West Bank, and she's also known in Israel and further afield. She has a shelter for dogs where she can host. She has 100 guests, 4-legged guests, and she would like to have more animals there, but she only has the space for 100. And in a way, it's also good because she does amazing work. She rescues these animals from the street. And first of all, I always thought, why do we need to rescue these animals from the streets? Maybe they're very happy to be on the streets and to be free. Maybe they don't want to live in a family and be on a leash and watch television programs that maybe they don't like with the family. But she explained to me why these dogs need to be saved from the streets. And that's because the government has a policy of tackling the stray dog and cat problem by poisoning them. And they actually do this with help of vets. And when Diana found out about this, a vet actually told her she quit her job. She was a bank director. She literally quit her job to set up as quickly as she could a shelter. And that's when she took the dogs off the streets. And not just that, she's very active in actually finding adoption families for these dogs. So she does all the paperwork. The animals can go quite easily to the United States, which is for me very surprising, because for us, even if you want to send some chocolate across the border in America, you nearly go to prison. But from Israel, apparently it's easy to send dogs and cats to the States. But she sends them also in Europe. 4 days ago, she sent a dog to a family in Germany. I think yesterday a dog was on his way to Canada. And that's amazing because there are hardly any flights. Because of the war, not a single aircraft can land in Israel at the moment, apart El Al. So she also organizes that the dog goes via, which is not really convenient for the dog, but at least it's a one-off, and then for the rest of their lives, they're going to be living with a family. So she does this amazing work. In the meantime, now she has another job part-time, because Diana, like all of us, also needs to eat and feed herself. But she gets up at 6 o'clock in the morning to feed 10 dogs that live in her own house. Those are the severe cases. They were very ill and they need a lot of care, so she takes them actually in her house. She has a nice area around her house where the dogs are. It's like a 5-star hotel for them. And then she has about 13 cats also living at her house. So once she fed all the cats and dogs and cleaned the house, she actually goes for a day job. And then when she comes back, she works till midnight to go on the streets to rescue injured animals and brings them to the vet and looks after the animals in the shelter, where she also has one person that's actually paid to look after it. So it's amazing how some people have the energy to do the job of like 10 people.
I mean, I haven't met her, but it sounds like an incredible, powerful woman.
Yes, it is. And that's what I find inspirational. Obviously, when you do this work, we see a lot of misery. We see a lot of very stressful situations with animals, very traumatizing situations. But when we meet people like Diane, and I'm not just talking about myself, but really about our whole team, we're 15 people at the moment, all volunteers. We really get a lot of energy, and we just want to help them, to help animals, of course.
So it sounds like you weren't alone when you visited the West Bank and Diana. Were you there with other team members?
Yes, we were there with 3 people. Our head of logistics and is also a volunteer. She's an airline pilot in her day-to-day life, with also experience in safety management. So she's also part of the safety team and logistics. And my dear friend Jolanda, another Dutch lady who lives on the Germans will appreciate this. She lives on Vlieland, a Dutch island, and she's a kite surf instructor. So when she doesn't teach kite surfing, she comes on missions with us. Okay, so before maybe going a bit more into detail about Diana's project in the West Bank, I wanted to ask you, what kind of expertise do you have in your team of volunteers, non-volunteer people working for Animal Heroes for your organization? Because I assume you need different expertise. How do you make sure that everything is there? Yes, it's a struggle, of course, when you start something, because you need a lot of expertise. And when you start, you don't really know exactly, you think you know, but then you don't know. You learn that when you go along and you start an organization like this, we start with the idea that we think we know what we need. And then along the way, we realize that we actually didn't know what we needed, because, of course, things develop in a different way than we planned. So we have a variety of skills and expertises in our team. For example, we have one person that used to work as an intelligence officer for a government, and now he has his own intelligence agency, and he helped us to provide intelligence about our mission. So we feel safe to go where we go, because we have someone who knows more than what we just read in the papers, let's say it like this. So we rely on that. So that's an expertise that's important to the kind of missions we do. We have people with marketing skills, which is very important to us, because we need to put our animal heroes in the spotlights. We have people with PR experience, and that is really crucial, because especially in the Netherlands, we get a lot of national media coverage, but also internationally. We had an article in Euronews. So again, this is to help raise awareness about our animal heroes and their projects. And the moment we get an article in the press, normally also donations come in. And you asked before, how do we differ from other organizations? And I think one of the things that is quite unique about us is that as a donor, you can really choose where your money goes. You can decide, I want it to go to Diana in the West Bank, or I want it to go to help donkeys in Turkey. So you have the full control over that, and 100% of that amount also goes there, because we don't take salaries, we don't have an office, we are a paperless organization, so we're very lean to make sure that all the money that we get actually goes to the animal heroes and their projects. And we visit all the projects, so we know that they actually exist, that it's not an internet scam, and we also see with our own eyes how these people take care of their animals. Because, for example, in Ukraine, we've seen also situations where people had animals and they kept them skinny on purpose to raise money for themselves. And those kind of practices you don't, of course, want to get involved with. So for us, it's very important to go and meet the people. I think that's also how we differ. So then the visit in the West Bank, was it the first time being there and seeing the project there? Yes, it was the first time for all of us to be in the West Bank. Eleonora, our head of logistics, for her work has been many times in Israel, but she had never been in the West Bank. And for us, it was the first time, and it was very strange to be there because we were in Bethlehem, which is a very touristy city. and it was completely deserted like COVID. All the bars were closed, hotels were closed, kids were empty. It was obvious to see that it's a popular place, it's a really beautiful place. It made it strange because we were the only foreigners, and we're also wearing orange. Really, of course, now all the Germans are laughing because the Dutch, of course, always wear orange. Yes, and we're very proud of it. So we have these orange jumpers, and we're blonde. So clearly we were, not really unrecognizable. And people were really so friendly. They were welcoming us and thanking us for being there. They were so polite, which is also a little bit embarrassing because it's a little bit like some diva or famous person that gets recognized everywhere. We were stopped everywhere by everyone, and that's something for us really unusual. So it was a bit strange.
You experienced probably also Diana's daily work. So what is your experience of the animal welfare situation in Palestine, and what are the main struggles there? You mentioned already the poisoning of dogs and cats as a method to have control over the population of stray animals. Are there some other issues or struggles, challenges that you have seen?
Yes, and that's also one of the reasons why we go and visit our projects, because you can only understand, you can grasp the situation and the complexities if you are living it. I really believe that there's things you cannot read on Instagram or on Facebook or by telephone call. You have to actually live it and experience it to really be able also to understand and to also tell their story. And we've noticed quite a few really big issues there. One issue at the moment is that only 10% of the people in the West Bank have a salary at the moment. So people don't have money, and it's also in Israel, the other part, there's people that have no salary at the moment because maybe they work in a hotel and the hotel's closed, but they get money from the government to compensate, and in the West Bank they don't get that money. So they really don't have anything at the moment, and if you have a family to feed and suddenly since the 7th of October there's no money coming in, that must be a very scary situation. So there's a lot of tension. And then there's this tension on the one hand, and already a lot of people there don't appreciate animals. They don't like animals. They don't like them to come anywhere near because of cultural reasons or other reasons I'm unaware of. But the fact is they are not known for being, big animal lovers. So on the other hand, there's no food for animals because there's no hotels open. They would eat the leftovers of tourists, and there isn't any. So they go closer to the houses, and they actually go and look for the people. So there's tense people that don't like animals on the one hand, and then there's hungry animals that need to go for food to the people. So what do you get as a result? Violence towards animals. I've asked Diane, I said, is this something new or has this always been like this? And Diane said, it's always been like this, but now it's much worse. There are many more animals being beaten up, children that throw stones at them. So there are more injured animals. So that's one problem that we actually saw with our own eyes. And then there's another problem, and that is that the veterinary clinics there are not equipped as well as those in Israel. So if you have a dog with a serious injury that needs an operation, it cannot be done in the West Bank. And we've realized that. We've taken a dog off the street in a refugee camp. A child had thrown a stone into his eye, and the eye looked really bad. It was half eaten by maggots. It was infected. So we took the puppy to the local vet who cleaned it with disinfectant. He put some silver spray on it, and then the next day we were able to take the dog by foot across the border. And on the other side of the border, so in Israel, there was an Israeli car waiting from an Israeli help organization that had decided to take injured dogs from Diana to a proper animal hospital. And that's what we've lived for a couple of days. It happens nearly every day. And people risk their lives going to the border area because it's really not safe there. You can't cross by car, so we actually carried the dogs in our arms and crossed by foot. to bring it to Israeli organization. And that's also extraordinary if you think about it, that actually Palestinians and Israeli and people are working together, both risking their lives to help save an animal. I still get the goosebumps when I talk about that. That especially in this delicate situation and period of military and political conflict, that there's an animal, a stray animal that's a victim that normally is always forgotten in times of war, actually functions as a bridge to bring people together that otherwise would not even talk together.
Mm. Yeah, that's also something that I realized now about your story, that it helps to have like this common goal that you can work for, and here it's about the caring of another central being.
Yes.
So, yeah.
It's neutral. It's something away from their conflict and differences, and it's something separate that each cares about, and it functions as a bridge. And I thought that was very beautiful. And another disturbing issue that we've experienced. There was a puppy that has been beaten up by a 50-year-old man. But so badly that it turned out the puppy had a fracture in the skull, not a huge fracture, but still a fracture, and 2 fractures in the neck and 1 in the temple. And it was completely inflamed, and the dog was not responding anymore. And it was taken by the person who rescued it to a local vet, who actually closed the door in their face, saying, "It's Sunday, come back on Monday. I don't work on a Sunday." Let's just say, to be politically correct, it was good that it wasn't me in front of that door, because that would have not been the outcome. But then we picked up that puppy, and we wanted to take it to another vet, and there wasn't any. And that was for us, it was really an eye opener to understand how complicated it must be to live in an area where you cannot just go and find another vet. Because the border was closed in the evening. There was one vet where we could have gone to, and that was in Ramallah, but our security team at home didn't allow us to go there because Ramallah wasn't as safe as Bethlehem. Of course, it's not safe anywhere, but Bethlehem was relatively calm. And Ramallah wasn't, because they had a prisoner exchange that day. So we couldn't go and take the puppy to Ramallah. So we had it in our own bedroom, in our hotel room, and the only thing we could do was administer some painkillers. And then the next morning we managed to go finally to a vet, and turned out then we understood what was wrong, what were the fractures, and we managed to take it to Israel, or actually an Israeli organization came to pick the puppy up, and on the way she died. And that is the sad thing, because if it's the whole chain of events of first an adult man kicking, really trying to destroy an innocent puppy, then a vet that refuses to help, which maybe could have helped, because if he would have administered at that time anti-inflammatory medicine and all the other things needed, maybe the puppy would have been still alive. And then because of this chain of events, we couldn't save this puppy. And I think it's only one puppy, and there's thousands of dogs, but it's I think symbolic, and it's an example of the situation there, because it represents really well the issues on all fronts. On the one hand, the tension, the aggression towards animals, the lack of skill and willingness of a local vet. And I must say that was only one vet. The other vets we've met were very dedicated and very diligent. And then not being able to cross to Jerusalem to save the animal because of the conflict.
Absolutely. I mean, this is now like an ongoing conflict zone, a lot of tension, a lot of violence. You also have some other animal heroes that you support, and one of the things you mentioned about, or you talked about Ukraine, and I was wondering other projects that you supported for a longer period of time, and Ukraine as an example, where we have a conflict going on for now more than a year, or what has changed with the work of the people and the heroes that you support there?
If I take as an example Natalia, who is a lady who is a founder of an animal shelter in Ukraine. She's in Lviv, and Lviv, of course, is not an area that is severely affected by the war, not directly, but it is indirectly. And she's actually a very good example, because she used to have 200 dogs in her shelter. It's been doing this, I think, for 17 years. And when the war started, a lot of people passed by Lviv to get into Poland, and they dropped their dogs at her shelter, not knowing that actually they were allowed to take their dogs with them. So instead of 200 dogs, she now has 400 dogs. And not only from the initial point of the war, she also has taken a lot of dogs from Bakhmut when they were fighting there. And the problem is twofold. On the one hand, instead of having 200 dogs, there are now 400 dogs. And on the other hand, the donations that she used to receive from people around the area have dried up because people have lost their jobs because of the war. So there's not money coming in. She doesn't get any money from the government. And that is what we see with all the animal heroes. There's no support from the government. Often they don't receive any support at all. The only thing she receives from the local government, from the council, is a little bit of porridge. And that is what she feeds the animals.
Wow.
So where the animals used to get proper dog food, she can't afford it anymore. And that's not just her. It's across the board in Ukraine. There is a really serious lack of food. There's a lack of medicine, of money for healthcare, for veterinary care, and the biggest problem is the high bills with the vets. So for Natalia specifically, she has food from the local government, but it's porridge. So the dogs have a diet of porridge. She keeps the dogs alive, but that's about it. And that's what's happening now as the war continues, is that also all the emergency aid has dried up because it's not in the news anymore. We've moved on to the earthquake of Hatay, and then we moved on now to the conflict between Israel and Hamas. And they are still there looking after their animals. The difference now is that they are completely and utterly exhausted.
Yeah. I realize how the point for where they're coming from for organizations or local heroes, how this changed and develops over time. And then also what you mentioned, that the need that they actually have can change. So maybe in the beginning it's like the funding that they need, but you also have cases where they have maybe enough funding, they have the money, but they can't use it. So I think it's the same with other like humanitarian aid organizations, for example, that you really need to look like what is needed on the ground.
Yeah, it depends on the situation. Each situation is unique. In Ukraine, they need food, and they need more food, and they need more food, and they need money for building dog kennels and cat houses, because so many animals have come into the shelters, and all the shelters are overcrowded. So there's a lack of space, there's a lack of money for food, and there's a lack of money for paying the vet bills, really. Of course, the very important in this situation is sterilization, because without a sterilization, you're not solving the problem. So there's a lot of initiatives. There's actually a Dutch lady who is on her own. She lives in Ukraine at the moment. She's in Kherson, 7 kilometers from the fire, from the front. And she's a veterinary nurse, and she goes around to give vaccinations to dogs for rabies, because rabies is coming up now more in Ukraine. And she helps with sterilization projects. She does amazing work. So like her, there are a lot of initiatives in different parts of Ukraine where they sterilize animals. And we have also helped with one project there, but it was very short. We would like to do more on the sterilization projects as well. So there's an example, Ukraine, where they really, there isn't a single organization that has enough money. They're always short. If we look at Gaza, for example, on the other hand, there is an animal shelter that's founded by a person named Said, and it's called Sulala Animal Rescue. He has 300 dogs and 150 cats, also disabled animals that actually live with him in his house. 2 days ago, he rescued a donkey that was severely exploited because of the lack of fuel at the moment, so the donkeys have to carry everything. And he has received a lot of donations from all over the world. All the big animal welfare organizations have raised money for him. We didn't, because we somehow assumed that he already would have received a lot of money. And we were wondering if he would be able to actually buy food with it. So we called him. We spoke to him. I actually speak on a daily basis with him via Diana, because they speak Arabic together. And he has a lot of money, but he can't buy anything with it because there is no food. So that's the other side, where there is an organization with a lot of money, but there's no food available. And if we look at Diana in the West Bank, she can buy everything, but she doesn't have money because everyone is supporting only Gaza and not West Bank. So it's very, every situation can be completely the opposite.
Yeah. So we have now 2023, the end of the years there. I was wondering, what are your plans, what are your goals for 2024 for your organizations? Are there like some news that are upcoming, anything that you're looking forward?
Well, we are, as a plan, we want to continue the projects that we have. We have a very important project in Turkey of a veterinary doctor who has started his own animal sanctuary in Turkey. He rescues donkeys, and it exists, I think, since 2 years. But the local council has decided he has to move all the donkeys. So he needs money to be able to move the entire sanctuary to another place in order to rescue these donkeys. And we visited the donkeys and his place, and he's doing amazing work. He's has also a vet clinic next to the donkey sanctuary, where he also treats stray animals. And he needs to have emergency room, what's it called, for the first aid intensive care. He needs 2 intensive care units, so we're raising money for that. And we hope to be able to help him to move his donkeys. So that's one of the projects that will keep going. We plan to continue our work in the West Bank because it's still needed. So we don't want to just do one fundraiser and then say goodbye. We really want to stay and support Diana and their animals as long as it's needed, as long as there's the conflict. So those are 2 projects that we will definitely keep. And we are also looking to buy our own medical tent, so that we can have a field hospital, because we have a vet in our team, and we worked in a field hospital in Hatay in Turkey, and we thought it would be very good if we can have our own field hospital, mobile, so that when there is an emergency, that we can actually bring our own vet team and set up our own hospital and run it more efficiently, because if we know how it works, we know what we need. Our vets know where we can find everything. So that is the plan for next year, to have our own mobile vet unit that we can take around.
Wow, that sounds really amazing, especially the mobile clinic, because you have something very similar, for example, with Doctors Without Borders.
Yes.
So they have like these emergency kits or like emergency teams also to react really quickly in a very, very efficient way, as you said.
Yes. It's not a concrete project because it costs a lot of money, and we are starting organization, so we first need to find the funding for it. But we would like to have a mobile clinic where vets can work site on site and perform 2 operations at the same time to sterilize animals and to help them, of course, if they're injured, and to have that mobile clinic drive around Ukraine. We have the personnel for it. We have the contacts, the network. We just don't have the money to buy one. But we're thinking of trying to set up something like that.
Yeah. Thank you very much. One last question. Like, how can people learn more about your work? How can they reach out?
Well, we have a website, Animal Heroes, that is heroes.eu. That's the English website. And we don't have a German version yet, but it is also planned that there will be a German language version. We are looking to expand also our medical team, not just for vets and veterinary nurses to go on missions, but also to help with collecting maybe medicine or supplies for animal shelters that are in need. So we are looking also for collaborations with veterinary clinics to help with providing medical care even from a distance. So our website is probably the best, or we have a social media account that is animalheroes.eu, and we would love it if you follow us because we are very little. We hope to grow.
I think now all the listeners have an idea where to get more information, if that's not enough what you've already talked about. And I really hope that we stay in contact and that I will learn more about your amazing work that you're already doing. And I'm also looking forward to see what you're doing next year.
Oh, thank you very much. Vielen Dank.
And that's it for today. I hope you have learned something new or have been inspired by Esther's stories. If so, please share it with someone you know, so together we can make the world a little wiser. If you want to find out more about the work of Animal Heroes and stay updated, go visit their website or follow them on Instagram. You will find the links in the description below. If you have any other questions, want to know more about the podcast, or have any other comments, just get in touch and email at daretocare@gmail.com or DM me on Instagram at daretocare_podcast. Thanks for listening and see you next time.